Hello fam, B2, and we're going to check in with the top 5 mistakes I've made in Epic RPG, so stay tuned. Alright, so top 5, here we go. Let's go. Number 5. I did not understand what the marry command did. And I'll show you on the profile here, it says married to Kitsune Master. So the marriage command allows people to hunt together. And so you're going to go on RPG Hunt T. Now, you have to be a donor in order to extend a marriage to somebody, but you do not have to donate to get someone to extend it to you. You see how important that is down here, right? So what this means is that I got somebody who lives in a time zone that is alternate for me. So when I'm asleep at night, they are still farming, and it makes a difference to gather materials. So like most of these, well, I'd say half of them were probably farmed while I was asleep, and the other half during the wake when I could play, and we were both kind of going back and forth in the commands, right? Also wake up with loot boxes just hanging out, so we can get those. And of course, if you're on a server that has a reminder bot, you're going to have this pop up and be able to hit your commands a little bit quicker. So that one's actually dialed in a little too well. No, it's actually the right time. So, but see, like right now, Kitsune is asleep and won't be up until probably another 8 hours on my time. So up and moving around. At that point, it's going to be midnight for me. I'm going to be hitting the sack, and he's going to be in going. So number 5, marry someone who is active. I made the mistake early to marry someone who was on the same time zone. We were both sleeping at the same time. Then the second person I married did really great, started having internet issues, and now I've got a third person who is actually a donor as well. And so we both have that 35% cooldown, which means we're farming consistently and at different times. So number 5. Number 4. The number 4 mistake I made was not getting into a good guild. So you need to find one that's active. You need to find one that's raising stealth. You need to find one that can get some energy and gather it. And the reason why is when you come in here into the info screen, you're gonna see that the rewards are just huge. Now, we're in a wacky little thing. We've had about a month of this new guild system, and it just kind of, to be honest, it's terrible. I love the idea of it, and the execution was good. There wasn't a lot of problems after the first couple of days. But the energy level, like we're a very active guild, and we're still not maxing on the 2,000 energy. So you can see where we're at here. We're going to be, and I don't want to get down the rabbit hole because I want to stick to the top 5. But we are only at 800 energy, and we probably have 1 or 2 more raids left. And so if you look at the top, even the top ranks, it's a pretty exclusive thing where, look, there's only like 10 of them that are over 2K at this point. There might be another 2 or 3 on there, but I don't know. That's a little bit tight. No one's hitting the 5K, right? So if you look up here, you've got this system or 4K. No one's hitting that today. There's going to be no guild that hits the top, so it's a little too tight, and I think we need to work on that. But the reason why you want to join that is look at this dual bonus, right? So that's a 42% bonus. If you're going to make 100 grand, you make 142 grand, right? So every 100,000, you're going to make 42,000 extra XP and gold, right? So when you get into a very active guild, not only will you get the ranks and the cookies and all that stuff, which is going to be like related to my number 3, but leveling your guild up is absolutely critical to get into a good one with 10 members. And you're also going to want to play the time zones on there too a little bit, right? So you're going to want to have some members that are alternate time zones. So if you're all East Coast and you all go to bed at 11 p.m., then you got nobody playing from 11 to 7. So you want to be careful. You want to spread those time zones around. All right, number 3. This one's important. Ready? It's a little known one because nobody really understands what it actually means up there, right? So if you look at here, it's related to loot boxes, but not what you think. So this right here, the rare loot box, is tied to RPG recipes cook. And it's going to be related to this right here, the filled loot box. I didn't understand how important your professions are when I started. And we're going to talk a little bit more about those at length because of the fact of ascending once you get to all 100. That's a whole different video that I'm going to film because I just need to make sure everybody understands. So this is the one that affects when you cook. this filled loot box, which you need a rare loot box on here, right? So it'll tell you it's rare. You need 12 apples, 8 bananas, and 25 cookies. So if you're not doing your arenas, do your arenas, get your cookies. Go. It matters because your guild's going to boost your rewards for those arenas, right? I'm sorry, from the duels. But these arenas are going to give you these cookies to cook these filled loot boxes. So, and this right here is very hard to raise to 100 just from buying your edgy loot boxes on every cooldown, right? So you're not going to make it. You can see that I've not done a whole lot of loot box, and I've probably done about 100 of them, to be honest. I've probably only cooked 100 of them. But you can see how Crafter's way out ahead. I had leveled Crafter a little bit, but stopped at 65. The rest of it was organic from time traveling, and it's going to hit 100. So I never really put a lot of time into it. I probably did that wrong, and we can talk about that later too, right? So do that. When you hit the rares, after you hit Area 5, you can't do it before Area 5, cook all of the rares, right? So you should have already farmed what you needed in A3 if you're, multiple time travels. And if you're if you're at A5 and you're able to cook it, raise the loot boxer. This horse, I'm going to show you why it's important to get the loot box, right? So I'm showing you why all these things are connected. This loot box here, it buffs the bank bonus and reduces the coins. Bank bonus, meh. I mean, it's a couple percent, which is a couple percent. I don't want to totally, discredit that or minimize the impact, but it's the coins to level a horse. My next level is going to cost me 95 million coins to go. You get that right here, horse level? So if I have a tier 8 horse, I still have 40 more levels on my horse. Can you imagine what level 80 is going to look like when you go to purchase it? So if this loot box is not out there, it's a tremendous amount of gold. Like, I can't stress that enough. Do your farming, right? So that is number 3. Get your rare loot boxes, convert them on the filled loot box, and knock this cost for this horse down as far as you can, because you don't want to spend that coins. Like, to farm 100 million in coins, that's at least, I don't even want to put a price on that. Like, let's say if you're making an extra bill 6, right? 1,600,000,000. That means you probably farmed 200,000 to 250,000 fish in A3, or like 80,000 apples to 100,000. Like that's the amount it's going to take. And when you get in the higher levels of the horse, it's going to cost you an entire 3 to 4 days of farming in order to produce that much gold. So cook your loot boxes. I can't stress that enough. Number 2, I did not farm nearly enough for the level that I'm at, right? So I'm going to show you. I'm hampered by this. I can't stick in an area too long. It's like a curse for me. Agent David right now is laughing and pointing at the screen going, yep, he did that. That's him. And so I want to see progress in the areas, and so what it does is it takes me out of the farming. Now, I do get a pretty good amount of extra XP for leveling, so if I do the hunt, you can see here I got 5,000 XP in area 11 is where I'm at for this, right? So and I do get 228% extra monster drops. So let's say if you have a 4% bonus and you have 100%, now you have an 8%. If you have a 4% bonus, you have a 200%, now you have a 12%. So the math is easy, right? It just doubles and then triples and then quadruples each 100%, right? So I'm getting a drop like every, gosh, it would be like every 10 dragons I kill, I should get a scale. So I'm like at a 12% drop rate. So if I kill 100 dragons, I'm going to get 12 scales on there. What really helps is when when I'm married and my partner's farming offline, I'm getting the same drops, right? So the time travels are important. I'm going to show you why on the trade. We have the chart up here, right? So if you look down here, in Area 3, if you farm fish and you get to 200,000 fish, right? And then you convert them over from fish to apples, right? So you're going to go where it's 3-to-1 to 4-to-1 on apples. You're going to go from 300,000 to 400,000 basically in the amount, right? So you get that if you had, you're going to go and turn them into logs. I'm sorry. So you're going to go fish to logs, right? If you go fish to logs and I had 200,000 fish, now I'm going to have 300,000 logs, 400,000 logs. So for every fish, 200,000 fish, I'm going to get 2 logs, which would be 400,000 logs. Then I'm going to convert this back into apples, and I'm going to have 100,000 apples going into A5 where the farming is, right? So the part is not so much for me to farm in that area. It's that I want to see progress go in area 1 to area 2 to area 3. And so when I do the conversions, if I farm 60,000 fish, I know that that's enough to create my edgy gear, right? And then in my head, I'm going, well, that's easy. Now I can just go and convert that, and I'll farm the rest as I'm farming along. But the problem is that it continues to multiply down the list, right? So if I go into this zone and I have 100,000 apples, right? Then I'm going to convert to logs on here, and I'm going to end up with 3.5 times the amount on there. So it usually, when you do the conversions on the 15, so if I'm trading to apples, and now I'm going to come into the next zone, and I'm going to trade here, right, an A5, I'm going to trade to apples. So if I had, let's say, 400,000 logs, and I traded them to apples, I would have 100,000 apples. But when I go to this next zone, I'm going to turn 100,000 apples into 100,000 to 1.5 million logs. Does that make sense? Because you're going to go from 100,000 apples, and it's going to go to 15 logs for each. So you're going to have a huge amount. Well, then watch this. If I keep logs down here in 7 and I trade them to apples, I'm going to trade back for basically going to trade my same amount of logs back into apples. So I'm going to be trading them at 8 to 1. You get that? So instead of trading 15, I'm going to basically double them up again. And then I'm going to trade those apples into fish, and then fish into logs. And finally in area 10, when you get there, and you're in area 10 after you beat D9, now that's your last trade to logs. By the time you get there, like this time around for me, I had like 2.4 million logs or something like that, and I didn't really farm as much. Like my marriage partner Kitsune has 250,000 fish, so you get that, right? You divide that in half, it's 125. So he's going to have 375,000 logs, like coming into this next trade here from fish to logs, right? Because you're going to get he's going to get 488,000, almost 500,000, because it's 2 for 1. So he's going to have 500,000 logs that he's going to turn back into apples, and that's going to be 125,000 apples. Then you're going to take those 125,000 apples and multiply that by 15 to get like just a ridiculous amount. But you see how it spirals. So right around in here, 7, 8, and 9, people try to trade, and they're like, oh, I can't progress. I have to look for a carry. I'm just going to get my edgy sword, and they spin the 250,000 logs. Well, the problem is that you're going to miss the trade for apples to fish to logs again, and that 250,000 could have been worth 750,000 after they double through the lane, right? So you don't want to blow those too early. You want to find a carry to keep your trades going all the way up until 10. When you trade back the logs, then you can convert them back. Why is that important? And I'll show you why. So in my inventory, I have, let me do my RPG equipment. So in my equipment, I have an edgy sword, an ultra edgy sword, and edgy armor, right? So to get there, I had to burn 2 ultra logs, and I already have a third one made. So when I go back through and forge, because I'll show you the forge. When I go to forge, I'm going to have to forge an ultra edgy armor. It requires another epic log, 400 rubies and 40 dragon scales, right? So if I look back at my inventory, I've got the ultra. Well, now all of these logs are extra here. Like I farmed enough to have all this extra material, and I'm going to show you why that's important, right? So number 2 was the farming enough, and number 1 was not trading well. In my first 5 time travels, I was terrible about farming enough and trading. I would miss trades at A8 or A5 and forget about them, and then try to convert them. It's too late, and I wasn't maximizing, what I was doing in the game. So I'm going to show you why that's important, because all of these leftover materials here are going to be consumed by going to your merchant right here, right? I'm going to sell these logs. Why is that important? So I'm going to show you, right? So let's say that, and this is in our pinned messages. You can join the server, friend me, the B2, #3417. But I'm going to go into a calculator for merchant, right? So if I look back here and I do RPGPR merchant, it's going to tell me my level 74 and my XP 17,359. So I'm going to plug it in here, merchant level 74, experience level here, and I'm going to say that I have 1.5 million logs. You think that would be enough, right? You think that would be enough to get to 100 on here? I mean, that's a pretty good amount of logs. But watch what it's going to kick back at me. I'm only going to go to level 87 when I sell 1.5 million logs. So I'm going to have to farm the same amount again on my next time travel in order to get this merchant to 100. I'm not going to have enough here, right? Now on this one, I'm not going to time travel quick on this one. I'm actually going to take advantage of some of the higher end commands. I'm going to use the hunt hard mode here and the adventure hard mode. You get an increase in loot boxes. I have a T8 horse for loot boxes. So I'm actually going to cook a lot of the filled loot boxes so that I can raise those PRs. Now I don't know if there's a help for this one. I haven't tried it, but I wanted to just show you guys the command. RPG ascend help. Let's try this. No, it didn't. RPG help, and then yeah, I have to get the command for it. But basically, ascending on your PR skills, when all these reach 100, you can now use any command at any level. So I can actually go on at level 1 and use a chainsaw. That's huge because now when you talk about farming, it'll take you like 2 days to farm versus like 8 to 10 days because you're farming at the highest level possible. So I hope those are good ones for you to understand, like mistakes that I made. 5, get an active marriage. 4, level with your guild. 3, convert your rare loot boxes to filled loot boxes, cook them out. And then 2, farm enough for your level to progress. And 1, make sure you hit every single one of your trades. So any questions, you can always friend me, the B2 hashtag 3417 on Discord. I hope this video has been incredibly informative. Hit me up with any questions in the comments. See ya.